East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave, and Mecky's trying to dial in at the moment. I think he might be restarting his computer. We're on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com, where it's more than just radio. So jump in the chat room if you can and listen. This is show number 257. And today we'll be talking about, this is show 9 of 9, ancient technology. We'll be able to finish this topic off today, no doubts at all. It's on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace tabletop digital radio. If you missed it, Solaris' show with Steve Colburn was fantastic. They were talking about new kinds of weaponry and alien implants and a whole bunch of really cool stuff. So, if you haven't done it, grab yourself, jump in the archive. It only costs $5 a month to access the Freedom Slips archives. So get in there and you can not only check out her shows, Solaris' shows, but you can check out our shows or any other host shows. You get access to the lot the moment you subscribe. All right, it's pretty cool. Now, I'm going to announce that I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where I live, the Darkinjung people, and pay respects to elders, past, present, and future. I'm sure that the elders at the moment would be feeling a lot cooler. Boy, oh boy, if you haven't seen the news, this week, Australia has its hottest, and I do mean hottest. I'm going to put my cam on, hang on a sec, there we go. We've had the hottest days in our recorded history. And I give this example many times. If you had a light bulb over a fish tank and you didn't change anything about it, the fish tank had a glass lid and there was a thermometer inside it, the thermometer will always read the same temperature. It can never get any hotter inside the fish tank unless you did a few things. You can change the bulb to a higher wattage bulb, move the same bulb closer, because remember the energy is 1 over x by the distance, where x is the energy. So as the further you get away from the source of the energy, inversely proportional to the distance, it squares itself until you're so far away you're not getting any of it. Okay, so it's a radial pattern. Anyway, enough of the maths. However, inside the fish tank, it doesn't get any hotter. It can never get hotter. So what makes it hotter? Well, you can change the gas. If you change the gas inside to a heavier gas, you'll get a hotter temperature. A lighter gas, less temperature because there's less mass. Okay, so the only other way to do it is take the lid off. If you take the lid off the fish tank and the light is shining down into it, you've got less protection. The glass isn't changing the wavelength, and it's going to give you a higher reading. So, which of those conditions or combinations of those are we experiencing? I wonder. And it's my belief that we're experiencing more energy from the sun at the Earth's surface, which, if you include any carbon dioxide in the air or any other, like methane, for instance, is another heavier gas. If you include those options, then it's quite possible that there are a combination of things leading to it. However, you can be sunburned within 15 minutes of sun exposure in Australia in summer and in winter and in fall and in spring. It makes no difference anymore. I remember when I was a child, I'd spend all day, every day, outside playing, and there's something has changed. Something has definitely changed with the weather. I don't know what that is. We spoke about ozone holes a long time ago. It was, prior to the 2000 Olympics. That was big on our agenda. All the hairspray and freon gas that we were using was causing a hole, because that's all the chlorofluorocarbons. Remember, tins of hairspray were propelled by fluorocarbons. And so that chlorine gas goes under the upper atmosphere, and the chlorine atom attaches and reattaches to, it attaches to an oxygen, an O3, and then disconnects and goes to another one. That's ozone. And it just keeps moving along using the same atom, but destroying multiple atoms of O3, ozone. However, they said, oh, that's all fixed now. We towed it out to sea. Well, I don't think they towed it out to sea. I don't think it's something you can tow. I don't think it's something you can pull along. I don't think it has an attachment point. And I think that they just swept that under the rug. Maybe they've put their head in their hands and decided there was nothing they could do about it. I remember seeing a whole bunch of documentaries where they were claiming what they were going to do. You see is get like 747s and fly them spraying stuff into the upper atmosphere to attempt to repair the ozone hole. Doesn't look like it's had much effect, to be honest, because we've just hit brand new records. And I don't know where you live in the world, and it could be anywhere. This is a radio cast that goes everywhere. So consider this. Since we've hit, and I'm coastal. I'm so coastal that it's only like 2 miles. 2 miles or a little more, depending on where you are, from the beach. So even if we have an easterly wind coming off the water, it's difficult to comprehend that we could still hit 42 degrees Celsius, which is 107 Fahrenheit, with an onshore wind. I mean, the water of the ocean isn't that hot. The ocean temperature was about 32 degrees. So we should only be getting 32 degrees. But this week, in the last 24 hours, this was yesterday afternoon, so in the last 24 hours in Sydney, there was a list put together, and the list was the previous world's 24-hour highest temperatures on the planet. And they were all from Australia. 90% of them were from my state, the state that I live in. We've had 11 days over 35 degrees, and for everyone else in the world who might not use Celsius, I'll just say it's 95 Fahrenheit. So we had 11 days over 35, and that's reasonably warm, except that the overnight temperature, or the temperature at 7 a.m. at sunrise, was 34.2 degrees, which is a new world record. It's a historical record for this area. So this was in White Cliffs. It broke 102, that's how long they've been taking records, 102 years, record for the highest minimum in my state. And that was at 34 degrees. Now we had 31 degrees, not many degrees different, but we're coastal. Coastal. 31 degree overnight temperature, highest ever recorded minimum temperature. And they go, oh, the hot air mass, you see. This is the Weather Bureau, hot air mass over Australia, over our state, and that's what's doing it. But when you look at the map, and I've been doing that, it's an onshore wind from the ocean. Hang on, that's not consistent with what they're saying. Oh, when is that supposed to not ring your alarm bells? Once again, it's I can't get Mickey in the call, by the way. I'm trying endlessly to get him on board. He's rebooted his system as well. But I wanted to give you a quote, and this is from this is a meteorologist from WeatherWatch doing an official piece to camera, official statement from the Weather Bureau, and he says, this is Don White says, the Hunter records, which is the Hunter region that I live in, it's just called the Hunter, did not just apply to February. They were the hottest temperatures ever recorded for any time of the year for those locations, because we've just come out of the hottest time of the year, January. Hey, I've got you on board, Meki. Oh my goodness, how tough was that? 14 minutes worth of trying to get you on.
No, you don't have me yet. You got me on my mobile. My system just completely shut down for some reason.
Wow.
So I'm still trying to get the system. Right now, I'm talking to you on my mobile phone.
Okay, well, the mobile doesn't seem too bad, Meki. Okay, so what I've just been covering off, if you're not aware, what I've been covering is our hot temperatures, and I've read a quote from Don White, one of the meteorologists from WeatherWatch, and on the coast, and because I mentioned that we're coastal, so Saturday's top of 36.1 degrees made it a record of 11 days over 35 degrees in Sydney, which is a new record, and that's extraordinary. We had our temperature where I lived, it hit a peak on Saturday of 41.9, which is good. I've got new digital temperature devices that are inside and outside, and I can get temperature in telemetry even across the day, and everything is awesome. But the highest in the state was 47 degrees, which is 116.6 Fahrenheit, and that's hot. But that's a highest, and that's a new highest, a new record. Meki, what was it like?
You're right.
What was it like where you are?
It was. It's hot. It's not. It's cooled down. It's quite humid at the moment. But the highest it got for me, and this is in traffic, mind you, on a highway, right? Where it's stop and go, so it's not flowing traffic. The outside temperature in my car was 50 degrees.
Oh.
It never that hot.
I was measuring.
It wasn't the only day. I wasn't the only one either. A couple of. Go on.
No, I was in a vehicle as well with the temperature settings that you can monitor the external temperatures, and
you're breaking up on my mobile.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be breaking up on air. So, I too had measured.
No, you're not. I am.
Yes.
And I'm going to try the computer again.
All right, no dramas at all. So I was also in a vehicle with external temperature monitoring, and it also measured between 43 and 50 degrees while we were driving. So it started off at 42 when we started driving on the road, and not driving behind like a Formula One vehicle or anything. This is just driving along with clear air. It went to 43, and then we got into the humid, low-lying areas. It went up to 50, and I could feel that temperature difference outside with my hand, and I'm serious. It was baking like an oven. See, 50 degrees.
Hello?
Yes, there you go, Meki, you're right. Okay, so 50 degrees.
Oh, all right. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. So 50 degrees, just to let you know, is the hottest temperature that in Australia that you're legally allowed to have on your hot water system. Because any hotter will cause skin damage. Just from the temperature. So you think about this, you're driving along and it's 50 degrees outside that's only 1 degree before skin damage can occur. Isn't that extraordinary? So this is one of my arguments, and there's a couple of plants, Meki, in my yard that did not survive the heat. There's a couple of lawns in my area where I live that you can see the shade mark from the house at that time of day when it was at the hottest. And we're talking very bad. Yeah, where even the plants can't take it. And these plants are native.
Quite heat waves at the moment. But out in the towards the center of Australia, 40-degree temperatures, it's nothing unusual. However, what is unusual is the duration of these temperatures. Now, I think there was one area I'm going to say Broken Hill, but the zoo. There's the Plains Zoo. It's out west, not too far west, but it's out west. Anyway, they had 3. This has been the hottest it has been for a long
I'm just going to adjust some settings with Meki. I'm going to pull him back in again. Hang on a sec, Meki. I'm going to pull you back in. All right. So Meki's still having some technical issues, and we'll see if we can get him back on the call again. All right. So yeah, it's been hot. I'll tell you. Meki, the other issue that we've been having, I'll get to the Central Plains Zoo, Western Plains Zoo, the Taronga Zoo in a second. The other point is that the government has been warning us of power shedding, which means that there's like rolling blackouts from a consumer point of view. Suddenly you're using power and then suddenly it's just not there.
That's right.
Yeah, but what they were announcing in advance of the heat wave, we're not going to be able to cope with it, so just expect blackouts. All at the same time, they're talking on a side parallel note in government about wanting to install more coal-fired power stations. Now, it's extremely infrequent that we should have any power difficulties at all, even though these are records. But as a result, what they did, they turned off the aluminium smelter, much to the dismay of the aluminium smelter owners, who said you can only turn them off for 3 hours, otherwise the moment you do, the heads that melt the aluminium, the extruders, will freeze, they say, and they have to be replaced, and they'll be suing the government for it because they've got a guaranteed supply with the provider. Is that not extraordinary? So they said that whole plant uses 10% of the whole state's power. So they just turned them off. Oh, we need the power, guys, so domestic people can do their thing. And anyway, so this whole argument about power shedding seems only so that they can put more dirty coal-fired plants in. They're not talking about renewables, tidal, or anything like that. All they want to do is push their agenda. So they're going, look, turn some people off to make them, have them, with buy-in. They'll say yes. They'll say, I'm sure they'll approve. Anyway, so in South Australia, where in 2 days before we had the heat wave, they had it, and the first day they let the power cuts occur, and then the second day they went, oh, you know what, we've got another coal-fired station we had turned off for a while. You told us to turn it off, so what, do you want to turn it back on? Oh yeah, would you? And then they didn't have any more power issues. They don't need another power station. So you have to think about us, Meki. We lost power for about 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes during the night for no reason whatsoever. I went driving down to the shops. The shops were all, prior to us getting cut off, they were cut off. And so they were trying to sell everything from their freezers immediately. It looked like it was the end. Because they've never been able to cold start a power systems. But anyway, Meki, I wanted to allow you to talk about the Western Plains Zoo.
Yeah, look, I think I'm having ongoing something else, but I can only follow what maybe Skype signal seems to be dropping on and off, so it's very strange. And that it's very, very, very hot at the moment, and it's hot for a long period of time. We've had 40 plus before, but now it continues to 40 plus. So, and people, and like you said, the electricity system can't deal with it. So these are serious.
You're absolutely right, Mackie. Look, I'm going to ask you.
So you're going to get a
reboot your router. Reboot your router. I'll pull you back in. It's really difficult to hear.
I'm going to reboot.
Yeah, do that. Reboot your router.
No,
all right. Oh, poor Mackie. So, on top of that, last night in the blistering heat, and I have to tell you, there was an effect. All the people in the audience of this project that I went to, they all had the handout. So when you walk into the project, you get a brochure, like an agenda, and they were folding them into fan shapes and fanning themselves. It looked like it was, something from the Wild West. It was indoors at night time. This is about 9 at night, and we're fanning ourselves because it was too hot because of the heat wave. Even though it was air conditioned, it was incapable of dealing with the heat. And what I went to was the Laramie, Wyoming death of Matthew Shepard, which occurred on October 6, 1998. Well, a team of what they're known as Tectonic Theatre Project, they went to the town and created a stage play which accurately recounts interviews with the town folk of Laramie, Wyoming. And it was heartfelt, and you didn't know what, it was, they recounted like some of the arraignment and some of the, the funeral and the sentencing of the perpetrator. I experienced an emotional shift because of the play. Not because of the content, but it grounded me again. It grounded me because of the human condition, the way that some people can be very awful to each other. And that's what it did for me when I went to it. I have to say the actors in the Umina Center that performed this play, it's called the Laramie Project. I think there's a movie. And it's all the same text, which is really interesting. And the actors did a very good job of it. So much so that there was tears in the audience from I think not the bartender. Was it the bartender's? I think it was the father, from the father's eulogy. But the event itself was awful. It was an awful event, and I'm not celebrating the event itself, because it was similar to the Anita Cobby murder in Australia. But I have to say it was very well performed by the actors, and well done everyone there. If you get a chance, if a local production of Laramie is put on, please go and see it. And it doesn't matter who you are or what walk of life you are. I have to say, not sure I am me in the chat room has said, just arrived, can hear Aussies though. Yeah, I'm an Aussie. G'day, how you doing? Sorry, that's not Australian enough. How about, g'day mate, how you doing? Yeah, it's all right, innit? No, that's a bit too English, innit? So, yeah, welcome to everyone in the chat room. The chat room's alive today. It's good to see. We're going to be talking about ancient tech, just for those who have jumped in. As soon as Meki can come back after rebooting his router and his laptop, because I tell you, his connection was so bad. Look, it's probably heat affected too. I don't know how it's going at his end, but it sounds as awful as when I got the NBN before my ISP was able to successfully solve all of the issues with their inferior modem. I ended up getting a Draytech supplied by them, and I really thank them very much for coming to the party. Thank you, Commander, for that one. Thank you. It's made my life so much better, and it's actually the internet you expect to have, though it could be a bit faster. Let's make it faster. All right. Now I'm going to see if I can get Meki back in, and hopefully everything's going to be okay. So let me see. So while we're waiting for Meki to pick it up, it's right near the bottom of the hour, and I'm going to do our second message, at bottom of the hour message. It says, get yourself some great merchandise from the station's website. And if you didn't know it, you can buy a CD of your favorite host shows, like ours, but we may not be your favorite host. So check it out for which host you prefer to have. There's also, and I mean, like, you can buy the host shows for a whole year, whichever year you want. So you might be able to get our archives. You can also get, if you donate, you can get an EMP-proof thumb drive, and it even includes survival documents. So if you're listening between shows, called a bumper, you might hear one of the bumpers mentioned some of the things that you can get in return for donating. There's also and this one's really cool, but you've got to be within a country that is allowed to receive seeds from the US. Australia isn't. We have very strict quarantine laws, unfortunately, because I would definitely pick up the non-GMO seed pack. It contains 75,000 seeds. I mean, that's honestly enough to kickstart a new civilization. Wherever you are, if you survive the cataclysm, whatever that cataclysm, whatever the cataclysm contains, whatever its origin is, whether it's a meteor impact, just they turn off the electricity grid, or someone does, or there's an EMP, or you have a civil war. Think about 250 million people in the US alone. If there happened to be a civil uprising against the government and food was no longer being, because this is what they would do, they would just cut off the food to everybody, and good luck with that. You see how submissive you can become when there's no more food. After all the rioting finishes, you know, they may end up with the right population count that they're happy with. Maybe that's their agenda in the first place. But I'll tell you, 75,000 seed pack, a small group of you, maybe 10 people or so, and you can cut down your labor per day, having built your community to a reasonable 2 or 3 hours labor a day with 10 people. If you've already got everything else and all you need to do is tend to crops, then it's really not as bad per day. Initially, yeah, but after that, it's pretty cruisy. So then you establish your trading communities with people and neighbors communities, and you have to know everyone. Once you know everyone, then theft is extremely rare, because you're all going to be in the same thing with the same enemy. All right, but I implore you, whichever you choose to receive, whichever one you choose to receive in return for your donation, then follow the instructions carefully. If you're in the US, of course, you can call into this show or any others on the station by dialing 347-688-2902. Or if you have Skype.
Hello,
Mekis. I'm just doing the bottom of the hour read. Yes. 1 second. You sound crystal
keep going.
crystal clear. You are. So if you have Skype, you can add Freedom Screen, and that's okay. If you live in Kentucky, you can pick us up on FM on WZZR 101.3 or anywhere else, and I do mean anywhere else, via a ton of apps. No less including the station's own Freedom Slips mobile app and our Shiny Side Out app. But there's websites like TuneIn.com, TalkStream Live, StreamFinder, Radio Tuner, Radio Waves. There's so many of them. All you're looking for, and I ask you to put this in your favorite search engine, is Revolution Radio Studio A. That's all you're looking for. When you find that and you can hear this broadcast, you're on it. And there's different apps, different providers, so go and have some fun with that. All right. So this is show number 257. We're talking about ancient technology. This will be the final of 9 shows on ancient tech. But right after Mekki
That's
brings...
right, 750 and 200.
750, 200. Right after Mekki brings us his news, because we missed you, Mekki.
And I missed you guys.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. So what was your news?
Yeah. Look, first of all, apologies. In the last half hour, I've rebooted my computer 4 times and my router 3 times. I seem to have a strong signal now. I'm hoping you can hear me, Dave. I think
Perfectly.
the signal is okay, so that's all good. My apologies. I really don't know what happened. The funny thing is this, and I said this as I went downstairs and I said what happened. My wife said, this is only ever happening when you have your show. Because we have no other problem with Skype or the computer, or internet for that matter, right? I mean, occasionally, sure enough, but whenever there's a major issue like this, it's only when the show is on, right? And I'm not paranoid, unless they're really after me.
That's right.
But okay, news. There are a few news items. They've covered the heat wave extensively, I'm sure, so I won't dwell on that. Suffice it to say that I think the heat wave is going to become the weather in the future, and we should all, in Australia at least, get ready for these 40 plus. When I was sitting there, and Dave, I don't know if that came through, the outside of my car hit 50 degrees. Now that's in traffic again, right? The inside, of course, was not 50. I had air conditioning on, but I saw as I was driving home, it's about, I don't want to say 15 kilometers, about 10 miles, something like that, from to my home. I saw probably 4 or 5 cars by the side of the road with troubles. Most of them were overheating. One had a burst tire, which I also would blame on the heat potentially, but a lot of cars had issues in this weather. Rolling blackouts, yeah. We'll see what that brings in the future. What else happened this week? Interestingly enough, Donald Trump's travel ban was repealed. At this point, it's still up in the air, so it's very interesting. We'll see what comes of that. He has, interestingly enough, made concessions to China around the One China policy. What that means is that he has recognized China or China's right to claim Taiwan, which claims independence. Of course, that's where the Kuomintang went when Mao took power. That's the nationalist party of China. They went to Formosa, as it was known then, and renamed it Taiwan, and it was split off from the communist mainland, becoming a capitalist and conservative stronghold for the Chinese. Other than that, it hasn't really been that eventful. I mean, we had some weather events, we had some earthquakes again, and that's a bit of a worry always. And people are willfully ignorant, I want to say, because when we have these conversations outside of the show with fellow travelers through this valley, people just don't want to know about it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to have anything to think about. But look, that's all I have. I don't want to chew up too much time here.
Mekki, I'm glad you mentioned those things, because there was a tremendous flooding in Perth. They had 300 mil.
That's right.
300 mil. That's a foot, 12 inches of rain. That's a new record for them. They also had a 2.7 Richter scale earthquake at the same time, which no one knew of. They didn't even know that they had it. It turned up seismically. It could have been the added weight to to the area, just failed something. The area that I live in, the Hunter region, we had a catastrophic, and it's still today, but its temperature's gone down, catastrophic fire hazard alarm. Now, in extreme, like there's a bunch of them, extreme means, you can't light fires. You can't light fires in any of the zones unless it's okay. But there's a $2,200 fine for lighting a fire outdoors and a jail term if it eventuates in a fire, an uncontrolled fire. So we're serious. Now, we had, 40-knot winds this afternoon. If there was a fire, it would have done a 90-degree turn and become extremely unpredictable. Every single part, I went walking around my block, and every single twig is snappable and dry. Every leaf is you can crumple up in your hand, perfectly tinder dry. The soil is dry, even the soil underneath it. So this was the day, if it was going to happen and we did have a fire, there would have been,
catastrophic.
It would have been, hence the thing. But I have to say, in the chat room, Not Sure I Am Me says 2 summers ago Australia had to add 2 new colours to the temperature charts, and I stated yes, there was one of them that was the highest one, 45 to 55 degrees Celsius, is now black. So just like, when you do a Freedom of Information request from the government and they redact it all, well, at some point on our map in Australia, it's going to look like it's been redacted because it'll just be coloured in black.
That's right.
All right, you have to joke about it because my goodness, Mekki, if you walk outside and you're not burnt within 15 minutes, you're not of this earth.
That's the thing. I don't know, you guys in America, especially elsewhere as well, though, I'm sure you've had freezing cold. When you walk through really cold temperatures, minus 20, minus 30 degrees, which I have, and colder, your skin starts to tingle. There's like this funny sensation your skin has, right? It almost feels like a burn. And then when you go inside, your skin really burns, right? Now, that's exactly how my skin felt when I was walking from my house to the gym. I don't know, 5-minute walk.
Yep.
There was no wind. And this was last weekend, sorry, not this weekend, but it was last Saturday, was just steaming as well. And my skin, it wasn't like the sun was on it. It was just the ambient heat around me, right? So that was, I'm telling you something there. I have not experienced that kind of heat here in Oz, where the ambient temperature can cook you. And I reckon if I had put an egg on my bonnet, I could have fried that egg on when I had come home, for sure.
Absolutely.
Not a problem at all.
Absolutely. Even on, if I'm gonna Mekki, the next time we have one of these, hopefully it's probably just this week coming. I'm going to put a coin on a piece of styrofoam in the sun and crack an egg over it and watch the ring of the coin beneath it cooking it.
Oh, that would be it. Yeah, right. Let's do that, man. Let's do that.
We have to start
I think
showing.
That'd be great for the channel, like for the YouTube
Absolutely,
channel.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. So Mekki, look, for all intents and purposes, I think we're ready to go.
We are, sir. Absolutely. We left off in China, and we're going to keep going with China. I've just made it to the chat room. I apologize for not making it earlier. My computer is not working at all today. It's just just now, just for the show. Anyway,
that's right.
This is now we've talked about India, we've talked about China, we've talked about like for 8 shows, we've talked about a whole bunch of things around ancient tech, ancient artifacts, things out of place, mysterious machines, things that seem to have given to us or seem to have come to us from a mysterious past. Agriculture, one of the biggest mysteries there is, and I've raised it at work as well. The answer to the question of the cities is agriculture. So somebody asks, cities? The answer is agriculture. The question though is, how would you ever come up with a need for cities? Why would you need cities? And we had a discussion about that, and the discussion was, well, cities are permanent settlements near somewhere where you need to be. Near somewhere where you need to be. All right, think about that, guys. Think about that. So we discussed all of that with you. I mean, this is a huge show. I think, how many, 45 pages or something we had for you, and we're getting to the final few pages now. It's astounding. And we also supposed here that if there were an ancient technology and an ancient civilization that transmitted that through the ages to us, the oldest civilizations that we have on the planet should have some memory of it, or some echo of a memory, or or something. And it seems with India and China, we in fact hit the jackpot with it. Now, we can't really interrogate or investigate the South American or African cultures. We know they existed. The ruins are there, or even the Pacific island cultures.
Yes.
The megalithic structures are there as well. We can't investigate them. We can't interrogate them because most of the material that existed, even in not in living memory, but certainly the last 500 to 1,000 years, has been destroyed, and no less to the to the credit of the Catholic Church for the most part. They went out and burned thousands and thousands of books and scrolls in South America.
We
And then
spoke.
oddly enough,
We
the
spoke.
guy
We,
that was-
we,
Go
we
ahead.
spoke. We spoke about the global loss of records.
Yeah. Oh, shocking. Shocking. And in fact, like we said before, I want to give you one simple example, then we get into the... If you look at the mechanism, and this is my favorite example, I know you're probably thinking, oh, not again. The
Here it
mechanism of
comes.
Antikythera, right? It's a very sophisticated little machine. Very sophisticated. Gears, cogs, and it works, right? It's actually working. It doesn't not work, it works. Especially now that we have reconstructed it. So it's not a prototype. It's not something somebody's thinking about spitballing here and there. It is a thing that works. Now, it was found in a shipwreck off the island of Antikythera, which is in the Mediterranean, right? So it sank there about 2,000 years ago, and then some sponge divers went down there and brought a whole bunch of stuff up. Initially, for the first few decades of its life in the museum, nobody recognized what it was. Then somebody took a closer look, X-rayed it, and all of a sudden, oh wow, this is interesting. And they rebuilt it. Oh, it's really a star computer. It was a navigating tool. That's what it. Now think about this. Now, the skeptic would say, oh, well, this was just a one-off. Just the only one of its kind ever to have existed. Now, think about the odds of finding it, if that's true. It sunk. It was at the bottom of the Mediterranean for 2,000 years, and then a sponge diver happens to find the only one in existence. You know what? He should have bought a lottery ticket instead. That's what he should have done. Because those odds are way not in his favor. So my point here really is, without being too facetious, it is clearly something of which many have existed. Many, many, many things have existed of this particular mechanism. And only that one, by some fluke, survived to our time. Only that one. There are many other examples. There are many, many other examples of that. Now, think about that, guys, right? We have, like Dave said, we discussed it, the loss of knowledge, the loss of artifacts, the loss of books, scrolls, tablets, whatever you want to have, right? It's astounding. And some of it deliberately burned. Some of it lost to time and wars, and natural catastrophes. I mean,
The burning of Rome.
think about it, Yeah, exactly. I mean, if there was a fire or a firestorm, and that went across, raging across the library, not too many books would be left. In fact, today, most of our storage is digital. Now, let's say that electricity goes away one day. Let's say that electricity goes away because there's a blackout, an EMP, sunspots, whatever, right? But an event.
Poof, and it's gone, buddy.
Sorry?
Poof, and it's gone.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, in a few hundred years, people will find these little chips or sticks, like, the USB sticks, whatever, and they go, what is this? Clearly, it's some kind of religious artifact. It's a worship. People worshipped it. Yeah, sure.
and
Good luck with you.
Meki, on top of that, examining one in front of me, they'll say it's got a little hook, like a little loop at one end, so there must have been worn as an ornament.
That's right, exactly. Oh, yeah, during a ceremony, clearly. Now, thank you.
That's right.
And this is the kicker, guys, right? We are scratching around in the dirt, trying to figure out what happened in the past. And look, there's a lot of smart people trying to do a lot of smart things. But the truth is, we know very little. We have theories about a whole bunch of stuff, but we know very little. And nobody likes to admit that. Human beings are notorious for not being able to say, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Let me get back to you. Right? We like to pretend knowledge. We like to pretend that we have the know-how. So most of the tech that we have today in 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 years would be completely incomprehensible, right? But Dave, so that's just a little catch-up.
I know,
and
I just wanted to mention something that's still in cycle with what you said. And you said we would love to have been able to get some written record from South America and Africa, but there is one that stands out. And if you're an Ancient Aliens fan like myself, besides Pumapunku, and that's is it the Quetzalcoatl, Mackie, where the person, the person is, there's a glyph with a person seated in a chair with feet on controls and hands on levers, with what seemingly
the Temple of Palenque.
The Palenque, thank you. Yeah. So it looks like it's a rocket-driven device. That's what it looks like.
Completely to our modern eyes. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. Dave, I don't know if you can dig up that picture, but you're so correct. And in fact, it's carved in stone. It's carved in stone. It's a carving, right? And the first time I saw it, believe it or not, was in a Däniken book. And I go, what? And I looked at it, and this guy is operating levers with his hands and pedals with his feet.
Yes.
Okay.
Now this is from a Stone Age people, right? So they don't even know what a lever is or a pedal. Yeah. But here it is with what looks like flames coming out the bottom. Yeah. It looks like a rocket of some kind, like a cutaway view of a complicated machine is the only way I would like to describe it.
Yep.
Now that makes total sense to me, Mackie, that they just made it up. It was just it's a stylized insect, Mackie. That's all it is.
You know what? Do you know what we're gonna do, Dave? This is what we're gonna do.
What are we gonna do?
We'll get together all the images if we can, if they're not copyrighted, and we're gonna put together a book with all the things that don't fit. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Now, we've done this now for 257 odd shows.
I'm sure 5 years. We have a bit of background on it now.
We have some of it, right? And we've made notes, right, on every show. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this together into some kind of reader, and we're going to highlight all the things that are just not right. And the funny thing is, when you start on this journey, you think there'll be few things that aren't right with the world, or here and there, this and that. And then when you start digging, you realize, wow, most of the things we know, we don't really know. And most of the things we think we know, we don't really know either. And most of the things that are presented to us are just theories and ideas and suppositions. We just don't know, guys. And a lot of the things that are mysteries and unexplained, and therefore in the Too Hard box, are completely overlooked in school, at university. You really have to start digging yourself, at which point, of course, you become a bit of a freak. And that's why you're listening to this radio show.
Well, Mackie, this is the thing that I was talking to a person in academia. Yeah. And I was talking about the possibility, because this is where we're at with our thinking, that there was, this is what we went into it with. We went into it with thinking that there was a possibility that humans had been at a high-tech level before. And I mentioned that to my friend, who will remain nameless, until they decide that they want to come on air and talk to us about it. But I said, there's, I gave him a theory, and he goes, "Oh, but there's nothing out there to prove it." I said, "There is," and I said, "What about this?" And he said, "Oh, that doesn't fit the current way of thinking." And I said, and that's true. And then I said, "Well, what about this?" Was the Antikythera mechanism? And he said, "Oh, it's once again, it doesn't fit with the way we think." And I said, "Well, did you know that the pile of stuff that doesn't fit is now bigger than what we have to prove otherwise?"
Right. That's so right. Yeah, the exceptions are now the rule. Yeah, right.
Exactly. So the very small amount of evidence to say that this is all we've got is clinging to an antiquated way of thought.
Yes.
And this huge pile, if you turn around behind you, you see the big pile you've discarded of all the stuff that you think doesn't fit the meme, but turn around and have a look at it, and you'll go, "Oh, wow, that's a lot more than I thought." And he said, "Well, you've got to present it. You've got to present it in a way that we can digest it." I said, "You have all done it, and you've all turned your back on it. Why are
Yep.
you turning your back on it? Because we don't want to get laughed out. We don't want to get
That's exactly.
It's about as character assassination. The moment, you know, because this is a closed group of people who don't want to allow anyone else to have any other thought. So this is the thought control. That's
exactly right.
and that's it. So this is this huge power behind us, which is so. And I thought I had him on board. In that 1 minute of conversation when we're talking about it, I thought I had him on board. Now, maybe I didn't. Maybe he's like, oh, I don't want to know about that stuff anyway. And he's put his tinfoil hat on and gone, that's it. I don't want to receive those thoughts anymore. Don't talk. I've got a little triangle. I go to work, shops, and home. I don't want it to affect my family. I don't want there to be. I don't want the world to change. And that's what I think. No one wants their world to change, Mekki.
And that's actually what the problem is, guys. As a species, we're the most resistant to change. People that want to change and bring change are usually burned at the stake or nailed to a cross. That's what happens to those guys.
Shot by their own people.
Right? Yeah. Oh, all of that. And this is really who we are as people. And eventually, though, the new thinking becomes the accepted way of living. And we saw this with evolution, the theory of evolution, right? Charles Darwin. And the reason that Darwinism is so dogmatic, it's because it had to fight against the church, which of course is dogmatic in itself. So it's really a shame. It's a shame that we have this mindset, this closed-in mindset, even in our academic institutions, where there's no room for growth. There's no room for the rebels. There's no room for the, believe it or not, the Galileos. Okay,
that's
even the
true.
Newtons, the Einsteins. Like today, there's just no space for those kinds of guys. And if you go against the common grain, your research grant is gone, your livelihood is gone, nobody will publish you, your career is over, your livelihood is over, you can't feed your family. So what do? You know, I'm not saying there's a big body of people sitting around censoring stuff. No. What actually happens is, I mean, that happens as well, but what happens is that you self-censor. You come across something that isn't acceptable and that you will have a hard time proving, but nonetheless, here's the evidence. You will self-censor. And I've spoken to people about this, right? And self-censorship is a real thing. There was a study done, which we've shared with you in some of the past shows, around self-censorship, not just in science, but in the news as well. And it's a real thing. It's a real thing because we want to avoid conflict. People don't like conflict. They don't like change, and they don't like conflict. You have to be very strong. You have to be a very strong person to stand behind your beliefs. Think about that for a second, right? It's easy enough to kill for something, right? In your mind, right? Yeah, I'm a soldier. Are you willing to die for what you believe in, right? That's the question. Are you willing to die for it? And I'm not asking you to do that, of course, but I'm trying to make a point here. And the point is that very few people have the fortitude to stand up and say, no, you're all wrong. This is how it is. And this is my evidence. And I will stand behind my evidence. Right? Even the greatest thinkers, under the threat of death, have recanted. They have recanted. Galileo. Here we are. And you know, under his breath, the legend goes, he muttered, and she spins anyway, right? But I don't know, as he exited the papal chambers. So the point here is, and I know we're getting close to the
That's
end
okay.
of the
We have the top of the hour almost here.
Yeah.
So, Mekki, I'm on board with you because there's something inside us that wants to be accepted.
Yeah.
We want to be accepted. So you're right. It takes a special person who is willing to forego that entirely because of the ridicule, the non-acceptance, like in Facebook terms, the defriending. In professional terms, it can cut you down and you can lose everything. So you have a professional possible loss of everything, you know, like the flower seller, Mekki. So you try to bring something out that people won't agree with, and you've got a lot at stake. And that's one of the that's one part of the reason. But I think on a more personal level, people want to be accepted, and that's why people don't want to stand up and say what they really think. Right now, I think we're at a turning point. I think people are standing up and saying what they really think more today, this year, than in 2016.
Yeah,
I think
would
this
agree.
year is a turning point in us, let's call it draining the swamp thoughts. Let's get rid of all the old way of thinking and start new. And I think this is the opportunity that we've got, maybe not as truthers, I don't always like that expression, but being able to talk to other people. I think more people than you're willing to admit are already across this, but are unwilling to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so take the opportunity, just from our audience perspective, you take your opportunity to talk about this and some of the topics that we mention a little bit further in conversation with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And allow them, listen to how they think of what they believe it is, and then offer them a couple of tidbits to go research. Don't just, stomp in there like a bull in a china shop telling them everybody's wrong, but because that won't get any buy-in.
Yeah.
So there is evidence all around the world, and I think that's all we have to go by on all of this stuff. This is the stuff that Mackie and I have been talking about for 257 shows.
That's correct.
And this is
exactly
where we're
right.
going. This is absolutely where we're going and why we're doing it, because we think that people need to know.
Yeah, and someone has to tell, right? Someone
Absolutely.
has to tell. Look, the music should come in a moment. After the break, don't go away. We're going right into the text, and this is now oddities in relation to China. We've got a few things here which you might find interesting. I've left a controversial one in as well. That's the Dropa stones. In my
Awesome.
opinion, the Dropa stone controversy hasn't been settled yet. That's my opinion. I will give you the pros and cons, and then we'll spend a little bit of time on that. But I don't think that we have the final answer on the Dropa stones quite yet at hand. Right. So that's anyway. So that's after the break. Got a whole bunch of other stuff for you as well.
And I want to add right now, what secret technology do you not know of that the government has? So think about that. If we were to kickstart again, don't forget to donate. On the other side of the break, there'll be questions. So hold on tight. Quick toilet break. Get yourself a coffee, and we'll see you shortly.
That's right.
Don't go away.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, aka a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it, I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons. Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958, and Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome back today for Make This Shiny Side Out, show number 257-750-200. We're talking about ancient tech, and if you can donate some money to the station, that would be brilliant, because they need it, and we need to stay on the air to give you all this great information here. So without further ado, Dave, let's jump into the oddities with relation to China.
Absolutely. So, underwater ancient city and lost civilization at the bottom of the Fuxan Lake. A mystery lies scattered on the unexplored bottom of Fuxan Lake, stretching out through Zhejiang County and Huaining County in Hunan Province, about 60 kilometers to Kunming City, China. This lake, rising 7,200 meters above sea level, encompassing 212 square kilometers of land. I mean, it's huge. According to an ancient local legend, a city-like silhouette under the lake from the nearby mountains can be clearly seen on a fine day, on a fine, calm day. To find out if there is something hidden in the calm waters of the lake, a Chinese submarine archaeological team stationed at Fuxan Lake carried on surveys carried out surveys, and with advanced use of detectors, discovered lots of blocks scattered on the lake bottom. Stones that formed a wall seen on a sonar display along with various flagstones. High stairs appeared in front of them, and flagstones covered with moss seemed to reveal an ancient sunken city. The team members found the scope of the site under Faksan Lake was extremely big, and the traces of construction were everywhere along the earthenware. Traces of earthenware were found everywhere, so pottery. Could the underwater city be the ancient city of Yuan, which disappeared mysteriously many hundreds of years ago? Mackie.
Or even older, who knows? The next bit is around the Dropper Stones, and I've expanded a little bit on this, Dave. The Dropper Stones are controversial. A lot of people believe they're a hoax, and I believe the jury is still out on that. But let's look at this. The Dropper Stones, otherwise known as the Jopa or Droppa stones or Dropka stones, are said to be a series of at least 716 circular stone discs dating back maybe some 12,000 years, on which tiny hieroglyph-like markings may be found. Each disc claimed to measure up to 1 foot, which is about 37 centimeters in diameter, and carry 2 grooves, originating from a hole in the center, like a record, pretty much, and in the form of a double spiral. And the hieroglyph-like markings are said to be found in those grooves. Now, none of those discs are stored in any museum that we know, and they've never been found anywhere, and there's just simply no physical evidence. There just isn't, okay? For 20 years, the Dropper Stones were said to have sat in storage before they were given to Tsum Nui for study in 1955. Now, this Tsum Nui now seems to not have existed, as some say. However, I don't know that for a fact. And one thing I would like to say before I keep talking about the Dropper Stones is, if something like this came to light, especially in China, I would suggest, or Russia, or even in the States for that matter, a large nation, which with secrets and the ability and know how to keep those secrets, I wouldn't be surprised that things would just disappear. We do know for a fact that many things have been, hidden away in the Smithsonian, for example, hidden away in the Vatican walls as well. So I wouldn't be astonished to count the Dropper Stones among those. Now, apparently there were some Russian researchers which asked to study those stones, and allegedly several were shipped to Moscow. Once there, it is said they were scraped for loose particles and put through chemical analysis, which revealed that they contained large amounts of cobalt and other metallic substances. As recorded in the Soviet magazine Sputnik, Dr. Vyacheslav Zayev describes an experiment where the discs were supposedly placed on a special turntable where they were shown to vibrate or hum in an unusual rhythm, as though an electric charge was passing through them. Okay. Supposedly, Ernst Wegener was an Austrian engineer who, in 1974, visited the Banpo Museum in Xi'an, Jiangxi province, where he saw 2 of the Dropper Stones. It is said that when he inquired about this, the manager could tell him nothing, but permitted him to take one in his hand and photograph them. He claims that in his photos, the hieroglyphs cannot be seen as they have been hidden by the flash from the camera and have also deteriorated. By 1994, 20 years after, on examination, the discs, and the manager had disappeared from the museum. No shock there. A lot of people claimed that it was first publicized by Erich von Däniken in his, I think, 1968 book. Let me just double check that. First early sources. Yeah, 1968 book, Chariots of the Gods. Not true. That is actually not true. The first reference that we know of, in English at least, is found in the July 1962 edition of the German magazine Das Vegetarische Universum, the Vegetarian Universe. Now, I have not been able to track down this particular magazine yet, or rather the edition this is referring to, but I will. And as soon as I have, or maybe you can help me with that, listeners, I will get that information to you. They also mentioned in 1980 in the book Sun Gods in Exile, which was edited by David Agamon, and he later claimed in a Fortean Times publication that his mention of the Dropper Stones was just meant to be a hoax. In Japan, they were mentioned in 1996 when a translated version of Hartwig Hausdorff and Peter Krasser's Satelliten der Götter, Satellites of the Gods, was released. So there was the Denikin 68 book as well, of course. Okay, so what is this? Are they real? Are they not real? I don't know. I know. The Dropa people are real enough, but they're not stunted. They're rather fairly sturdy warrior types. And in fact, most of the Dalai Lama's guard back in the day was made of the Dropa people. The Dropa word itself, or Dropka, is Tibetan for solitude or inhabitants of pasture lands. So, so these are physically remote people. Now, with vigorous photos lacking concrete evidence of the hieroglyphs, they display similarity to B discs or Bi discs. Bi discs are round jade discs with holes in their centers. When buried in the earth, the minerals changed them to be multicolored. Bi discs have been dated from 3000 BCE and were common in Shanxi province. Some Bi discs are decorated with parallel grooves and other markings. Now, of course, the suggestion here is that the Dropa stones are in fact Bi discs. I don't know the truth of it yet. All I know is I can't not talk about it because, as I said, I believe the jury is still out on the Dropa stones, and you, esteemed listeners, deserve to know all the ins and outs. Dave?
Absolutely. And you should look them up yourself. It's extraordinary. Now, I've got the mystery of the Manzan. Is that how I pronounce it, Becky? I know I've gone on a limb. Pengzhen Cave. Okay, so mystery of the Pengzhen Cave. How could gigantic animals reach a mountain cave located 1,600 meters above sea level? That's a good question. Did early Homo sapiens exist in China at the same time when Homo erectus, the Peking man, occupied Zhao Kujian?
Close enough.
Yep, that'll do. Site located near Beijing. And this is a story that Mackie and I have talked about before. The Pengzhen Dangong is a Paleolithic karst cavern located in a very small valley, and it's 1,630 meters above sea level on the western plateau, the Jizhou Plateau in southern China. Humans were present at the cave about 300,000 years ago, and were also gigantic, and also found were gigantic animals by the bones, by the refuse left behind. But scientists are baffled about how these animals themselves could reach a mountain cave located so high above sea level. You have to understand that the height above sea level means that the vegetation is different. And when you start to have giant animals, or the megafauna, as it's known, because there was megafauna all over the planet, and especially in Australia as well. Right. And they say that humans existed modern-day humans existed for about 17,000 years alongside the megafauna before the Great Catastrophe that wiped out almost, everything on the planet. So as you increase the elevation in a mountain range, the vegetation changes, the wildlife changes, until you get to a point, and 1,600 meters is pretty high, to where there's no longer a rainforest environment and more a tundra, because it's going to be colder, and therefore it's difficult to understand how a large megafauna kind of large creatures could exist, because there's so little food. So that's where they're going with it. It's not stated, but that's where they're going with that mystery. So I think what we should read between the lines here is that the climate was different. It might have been a fully populated rainforest up to 2,000 meters, or maybe the height of the land wasn't so significant then. We don't know.
That's right. It also is a problem because it puts human beings into that area of the world much, much earlier than otherwise we would like to see them there officially. And the evidence for the human habitation of the caves lies in 5 human teeth that were found among the sediment. The sediment itself was about 20 meters deep, right, in that cave, 20 meters deep. They also found stone artifacts. So there were 5 human teeth and stone artifacts. So you can't talk that away. Those are real teeth and real stone artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think what's missed here, Meki, is the cohabitation.
Yes.
That part of the story is missed. And it's basically there was cohabitation in the same cave by two different species of sapiens.
Yes.
So Homo erectus and Homo sapiens in the same cave at the same time, and it was either thought that they cohabitated the same cave at the same time, or that they were migratory and chose to live in that at different times of the year. It's unknown.
That's exactly right. And the kicker is this, right? The kicker is this, that we've said this before. We've said, guys, we live today. We live together. We coexist with orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees and bonobos. We do, right? Here they are. Is it really that hard to imagine that Homo sapiens has coexisted with other species on our alleged family tree? Well, we know we coexisted with Denovian man or woman and Neanderthal and Homo forensis. So we know all of that, right? So the longer we look at this stuff, the more clear it becomes that we simply have no clue. We just make all these statements, right? Because if you make a statement and it's a breakthrough, you get a prize, right? You get a Nobel Prize. Well, who knows?
So Mackie, you're right. So we know because of the DNA that's been found with certainly within the Australian continent, and the cohabitation and the mixing of the DNA from those three that Mackie said, Neanderthal it is, and the Homo florensis forensis, and there was another one that was already in Australia. So those three mixed together at the same time, which is an extraordinary thing. And one of them was predominantly the South Pacific Ocean and a number of islands. I'm not talking about the Maoris or the people of Hawaii. No, this is a different species again of humans. So they all coexisted. They interbred, and they were there. We were probably, or they were a lot more friendly to each other, it seems, than we are today of our little changed species, or our race. I think we're a little bit better. We might be. I think maybe we're not any different at all, Mackie. I'll leave that alone.
Oh no, but that's the thing though. We're not. That's really something you need to understand. If you took a person, in my opinion, from 1 million years ago, even 2 million, even longer, but 100,000 years ago, and you put him in a business suit and let him walk down New York and I don't know Fifth Avenue or the Champs-Elysees in Paris, whatever, you wouldn't know the difference.
You wouldn't. No.
Wouldn't know the difference.
It's not like
that goes with.
It's not like on Star Trek where the ears would be different or the forehead will have ridges on it or something. It's not like Star Trek, right? This is we're the same.
Yeah.
We're simply the same.
Yeah, that's completely correct. But this is interesting. This the mystery of the ancient metals, and they are purported to be some of the strangest objects in the world. By some standards, I guess. When sunlight reflects off the surface of the replica of a Sankakubuchi Shinjuku mirror, patterns engraved on the back are projected on a wall at the Kyoto National Museum, and that was January 29, 2014. The so-called ancient Chinese magical mirrors are some of the strangest objects in the world. Okay, so again, if sunlight reflects off the surface of one of the replicas of the mirrors, patterns engraved on the back are projected on a wall. Okay, so it's like a image enhancer. Now, the exact origins of ancient Chinese magical mirrors are unknown. About 1,200 years ago, a book entitled Record of Ancient Mirrors still existed. This book contained the secrets of these enigmatic objects and their construction. Unfortunately, this book has been lost for over 1,000 years. How do you know this, Mackie? So the thing is this, it's referred to in other sources. We've discussed this before when we discussed ancient texts. Really old books refer to older books yet, which have been lost. And the book on Vimanas and how to construct them is one of them, if you remember from our last show. Today, we wonder what secrets lie behind the 1,000-year-old magical mirrors that have the creepy ability to project patterns from the back when light is shining on the front. Now, we say 1,000-year-old because that's when they were referenced or that we know about for the first time, right? Now, clearly, they're probably a lot older. In ancient China, there's one type of rare mirror called Tuo Quan Qing, which means literally light transmitting mirror. When a strong light strikes the undecorated surface and is reflected onto a wall or screen, the patterns decorating the back of the mirror mysteriously appear in the reflection. When magic mirrors came to the attention of the West in 1832, dozens of prominent scientists attempted to discover the secret, of course, to no avail. So this is the example of another lost technology and another lost ability that we're bringing to you guys.
I've seen a documentary on someone attempting to recreate them, Becky, the magic mirrors, and they showed an example which was 300 years old. This mirror that was from India, of all places, believe it or not, and it showed a cross on the wall. So you couldn't see it on the face of the mirror at all. Not even at all. It was undetectable. And of course the mirror's, in a frame, and when you shine light off it, you've got a, I don't want to call it religious, but you have a symbol that's intentionally there in the reflection. That's something else. That blew my mind when I saw that. And then they attempted to show how it was made, but they didn't do a good job. But And I think just to know how that was done when you see the documentary is extraordinary, that they knew how to do that way, way earlier than when we're using chicken bones as Giorgio Tsoukalos says, when we're scratching rocks with chicken bones. That's when we were meant to have discovered this. It's from the previous civilization for sure, that knowledge. Now, this leads us to one of my favorites, Becky, and I'm glad I got this one. This is the cover-up of ET artifacts around Mount Bangong. These remains are known as the ET relics, and no one knows their origin. The question is, did extraterrestrials once touch the ground of Mount Bangong? Or, Meki, can you pronounce that one?
Bayin Nua Washan.
Thank you very much. Now you can see why I hesitated. He does a great job. Meki, you should take me off air sometimes and teach me all these words. Located about 40 kilometers southwest of Dalingar city and left mysterious relics of unknown origin. The area around the city is very isolated, though, but extremely interesting. Ancient pipes that could be of extraterrestrial origin were discovered on and around the mountain, located not far from the city. In 2003, as little ago as that, a group of 9 Chinese scientists traveled to Qinghai province to closely examine the site. Isn't it strange that the result of the close examination of these artifacts has never been officially published? Has any major research been done in the first place, or has it been interrupted because the relics are in fact related to extraterrestrial visitations to the planet Earth? Is it something intentionally kept from being published? This is what we keep saying. So, yeah, they went there. Well, can't talk about it. So they're talking about pipes. Well, the earliest known pipe that we know of was in Rome. That's 2,000 years ago.
I remember seeing pictures of those. They were in Nexus magazine, in fact.
Oh, of these ones from this mountain?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
People are going to, there'll be very little left over from us, but, in the next go around. And whatever they do find, I can imagine people like us, Meki, on the radio talking about the same thing because, we'll have done the same thing again. We'll have had amnesia.
Yeah. And this is really the crux of most of this, and we have a little bit of time so we can go into this. If you're on the trail of a true mystery, a mystery, in fact, that could change the world and, that would change people's mind about certain things, chances are that trail will go real cold for you, or you will go real cold real quick. Either way, chances are that it won't be released. The public will never hear about it. So we hear about expeditions sometimes. Do you remember, Dave? They were talking about this sonar or ground penetrating radar underneath the Sphinx.
Yes.
They found this large hollow, a large room, potentially a large cave, whatever, under the Sphinx. And they were talking about, oh, you're going to go down there and we're going to have a look at it, la la la, whatever. And then eventually, Zahi Hawass had hosted a special, and he did go into a cave, but it turns out it was in the Valley of the Kings. He went into a grave in the Valley of the Kings, nowhere near the Sphinx. So it was complete.
So what happened to that?
Well, what happened to that is
That's
a good
right.
question.
Where did that go?
Excellent question. And what happened to, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was this little robot, Upu Out, which means opener of ways, that was by Rudolf Gantenbrink, I think 20 years ago now, was sent down one corridor or one little shaft in the pyramid, and there was a door that he came in. It was the door, like the actual shaft was about 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters, right? So not enough for a human to squeeze into, but this little robot, Upu Out, with a camera, went there, and there were bronze handles, somewhat, rusted, but bronze handles on the one side. So clearly, this is some kind of door, and there was also a crack, and they managed to get a camera like into that little crack and look at the other side. So there was actually more behind that door. So who, in their right mind, would put a door with handles into an air shaft, for all intents and purposes, that is not accessible by humans of any size? So think about that. And again, what happened to that? He was actually no longer allowed access to the pyramid after he published his findings.
Because
Rudolf Gantenbrink.
remember that.
Come up if you can.
Just remember this: the Egyptians are quite vehemently opposed to revealing the true origin of the pyramids because it doesn't support their claim that they built it.
That's right.
And
Exactly.
the moment you find anything to the contrary, like, oh, what was it for? And there's a nice cover story, like it was the king's tomb. Yeah, so we named two chambers. We found the king's chamber and the queen's chamber. Yeah. Okay, so why did you build it? Oh, it's just for them, So why did you build it in the shape of Orion? Well, it seemed appropriate.
No, you shut up now.
It was the style at the time.
Right? The Kaiser told he stole all the brown onions. No?
So this is very funny, and this is the same argument that we keep seeing everywhere, and that is that they don't want their ideals destroyed. Imagine there'd be an uprising in Egypt if they, said, "Oh, actually, no, you're right. We found them, always claimed them as ours, and sheepishly admit that we presumed they were alien or something. Don't know. Can't tell you."
Bear in mind, though, and forget about the pyramids for a second, as astounding as they are, right? Let's focus on the platform of the pyramids, one, and secondly, think about the Sphinx. We come back to the Sphinx all the time because it is the single most compelling piece of evidence, physical evidence that we have, that human civilization goes back a lot further than we had previously thought. And this is physical evidence. This is not written somewhere, and it's not someone's theory. We examined the Sphinx. When I say we, geologist Robert Schoch, Dr. Robert Schoch, he examined it. He showed pictures without telling his colleagues what they were of the Sphinx, the erosion patterns.
Close up erosion patterns. Yep.
Yeah, and they're absolutely it's rain, it's water erosion. It's not wind, it's not sand, it's water erosion. And this is very hard stone, guys. This is very, very hard stone. And as soon as he showed them the whole picture, he goes, "Oh, yeah, don't tell anyone I told you that. Don't mention my name. Lose my number. Prank call, prank call."
Who is this? And he hung
That's
up.
right. And I watched the debate, I think I mentioned this before, between Schoch and at the time was Mark Lehner, and I can't remember if Zahi Hawass was there, but the point is that he said, well, this is the physical evidence. I'm presenting it to you. I am a geologist. That's what I do, right? This is my thing. I look at rocks and I love it. And this is my science. And this is the science that supports me. So unless geology is wrong, Robert Schoch is right. Yeah. But Mark Lehner says, yeah, that's all very interesting, but you know what? I don't care. Because where's the corroborating evidence? Where's the textual evidence? Where are the artifacts? Where's this? Where's that? Right? And he kept on going, and I was flabbergasted. I was astounded. I was going, wow, this is not going anywhere real fast. And
because
it was disappointing.
what they want to find, Meki, what he's suggesting they should find for our audience, right, is they need to find dinner plates, cutlery, tools for carving it, any chips from the original, carving. So to say, you know what, we know when it was then. And because they don't know, they won't claim anything. It's like that whole building carved out of one piece of stone.
Yeah.
Right? There isn't any tools. There are no tools found there, just like at Göbekli Tepe. There's no tools. There's no tools. So what if around a building site, there's always a couple of nails and some bits of wood and something like that from the construction of a building, even today. That's what they're expecting to find. But what if they had a really good cleanup crew and they just cleaned it all up? There you go.
That's what happened. Yeah, no. So it's too much time has passed is what happened. Now, one more thing about the Sphinx, and I'll go back to China here. The Sphinx, every representation of a Sphinx that you buy in a souvenir shop, even things that the Egyptians themselves made, like little statues, that are Sphinx, which is essentially a feline body with a human head, are all anatomically correct. They're all anatomically correct. What does that mean? Well,
what are you saying, Meki?
Sorry?
What are you saying?
What I'm saying is the head is in proportion to the rest of the body. Now, I'm not saying there was a cat with a human body that ran around. What I'm saying, though, is the relative sizes make sense. If you look at the original Sphinx, the head, compared to the body, is tiny. It's a tiny little head on a gigantic lion body. It makes a lot more sense to think that if somebody had taken the time to carve a gigantic lion-shaped creature out of the rock, and it's one rock, it's not built, it's carved out of it, right? They would have taken the time to make it anatomically correct. And I'm saying they did. What happened thousands of years after they built the original one or carved the original one, someone else came along and said, you know what? That lion head is pretty cool, but you know what? I am the son of God. I am the God Emperor. I'm the pinnacle of human evolution. That thing should really have my head.
I want my damned head on that body, thank you.
That's right.
But boss, it's going to look ridiculous.
Yeah, it did, right? So they did do that. And the head, because you're carving from an anatomically correct size down to a smaller size, no longer is anatomically correct. Yeah, that's the word for the week, anatomically correct.
Today was brought to you by Anatomically Correct. And then number 3, so number 7, Meki, tell me more about China.
Yeah, I will. Now, there are unanswered questions related to the mysterious Huashan caves. Now, China has got thousands and thousands of caves, right? And a lot of them, at least in the West or for us, have not been explored, so that we don't have any speleologists that go down there regularly. The most mysterious discovery is the slope of the caves. The inclined plane of the walls is exactly the same slope as the outside hill. Right, so the slope that goes up is the same as the slope that goes inside of the cave. That's unusual. Now, is that just a coincidence? Or do certain laws of nature lie behind that phenomenon? Or was it built by someone? Now, this was reported by explorers researching the ancient mystical caves of Huashan near the famous Huangshan Mountains in China's Anhui province. A most mysterious... Yeah, so this is very odd. According to technology of the time, how could the ancient people have managed that, right? How could they have built these slopes? These are not small caves, by the way. Located in the eastern suburbs of Tungji district in the Anhui province city of Huangshan, a visitor will find Huangshan caves steeped in ancient and mysterious legends. The history and purpose of the caves, accidentally discovered by a local farmer or rediscovered, are now untraceable due to the lack of any words in books or on cave walls describing their use. So it looks like this cave was somehow worked, and I can only imagine would have been for easy access both up and down into the cave. Okay, but we have zero knowledge of who, why, or when it was done.
Wow. If you were to go into a mountain and then up at the same angle as the mountain side, that means that you could avoid a flood, Meki.
That's
Instead of going down or level, that makes sense. But who knows? I don't think we'll ever find out the true reason. I want that time. Bring me the time machine. Stat.
Oh.
I know, right?
When do we want it? It doesn't matter.
It's irrelevant. That's right. Okay, Mysteries of the Yellow Emperor, the Son of Heaven, from Regulus. The Yellow Emperor was a rather interesting entity. The ancient Chinese records mention amazing, wise, and humane, not human, P.S., beings, the sons of heaven. This term became emperor's title much later, who had done so much for them, for the savage dwellers, that is, of Huan He River Valley, before the sons of heaven appeared on earth. Familiar celestial phenomena preceded all such appearances of the sons of heaven. Before Huang Ti was born, there occurred a radiance from the great star Qi and the Dipper constellation Ursa Major. Huang Ti was very different from other ancient heroes. He did not enlighten people, did not demand worship. Huang Ti and his helpers were amazingly rational beings. Hang on, that doesn't sound like a leader, Meki. Rational. Right. Yeah. That just so doesn't sound like any politician I've ever heard. Numerous sources relate to Huang Ti manufactured and used some miraculous tripods. The tripods were not used for water, nor was there any fire to heat and prepare food in them. The purpose of such tripod was quite different. Who was the Yellow Emperor, really?
That's right. So we're giving you just excerpts here, right? And I've just posted the Huashan Caves, the link to that. We have here the similar, or virtually the same legend that the Sumerians had, Dave, with the Anunnaki, right?
That's right.
And the Anunnaki we've discussed with you at length. In fact, I think it was Enki that argued in our favor in their council to not kill us all in the flood. What? Excuse me?
That's right.
Yeah. Let's not all kill them in the flood. Let's not do. That's not a good thing to do. So
and then, despite the meeting that he had and his will for us not to all die, he still undertook a program, rescue mission to rescue a number of us.
Yeah,
which is mentioned.
Exactly.
You've got to remember these stories, because these are from all around the world too.
Yeah, and again, guys, I know it's easy for us because we've done this for decades, and that's really all we're interested in. And it's harder for you because you're listening to this maybe once a week, or maybe if you go to YouTube more than once. But you should try to remember all the connections, all the links. Anyway, let's try to get this done. The second, the second ancient world buried under the vast Taklamakan Desert. One of the mummies found in the small river cemetery near the eastern end of the Tarim River in the Takamalan Desert. Ancient people believed that once you entered this place, there was no way out. A very long time ago, there were houses and temples here. Today, everything is buried under the sand. Precious ancient relics are hidden deep under the Sea of Death, or, another name for the Taklamakan Desert. Archaeologists are beginning to discover some of the secrets that have been hidden in this mysterious region. Still, it seems that we're only scratching the surface, and only time will tell what more wonders are waiting to be unraveled. The Taklamakan Desert is the largest desert in China, and is also considered to be the world's second largest shifting sand desert, covering an area of over 33,000 square kilometers, which is 13,000 square miles. In the Uyghur language, Taklamakan means you can get into it, but you can never get out. And that's why the desert is called the Sea of Death. According to an ancient legend, once, a long time ago, a powerful supernatural being who saw the hardship being faced by people in this area thought he could help them by using the two magic objects in his possession, namely the golden axe and the golden key. But that's a story for another time, guys. But look up the Taklamakan Desert if you can.
The ancient Hongshuan culture, creators of a pyramid and remarkable artifacts that are still shrouded in mystery today. The mysterious ancient Hongshuang culture vanished. I repeat, vanished thousands of years ago, but they left behind a number of absolutely astonishing jade figurines that we have the privilege to admire today. Interestingly, some of the produced figures are very alien-looking. Whom do they depict? Did the Hongshuang people encounter ancient aliens, perhaps? And I'm looking at some images of them, and, you know, they're elongated heads, large eyes, extraordinary looking. In the Inner Mongolia autonomous region, there is also a very pyramid-shrouded in an aura of mystery. I love that, a very pyramid. There is no doubt, obviously translated, there is no doubt that the Hongshuang culture of ancient China played a vital role in the history of the country. The Hongshuang people were dragon and fertility worshippers. Dragons again, Mekki. Dragons.
I know, right? I know. Yep.
As can be seen by looking at the produced artifacts. Several of the jade artifacts were discovered in tombs or near altars. However, some of the figurines do not resemble any known creature or symbol. And here we go with the stylized, you know, insects and creatures again. It is
That's right.
It is true that we have gained a lot of knowledge about the Hongshuang people, but much of their spiritual and earthbound life is still shrouded in mystery.
That's right. Now, the next one, actually, I went to visit this. I went to Vizian 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, that's right.
I didn't make it to the pyramid, though, because my time in Xi'an was limited. Let me tell you, though, Xi'an is the old capital of the empire, the Chinese empire, and it's about as Chinese as you can get. It's very much in the inland. Anyway, they also have the mysterious Great Pyramid, and most people don't even know about it. Even some of the Chinese I spoke to in the hotel had no idea there was a large pyramid. It's called the White Pyramid in Xi'an. They know about the terracotta warriors, but the two complexes are actually linked. Okay. It's located about 40 miles southwest of Xi'an, the largest of 16 pyramids located in the area designated as a Shenzi, or a no-go area, a forbidden zone by the communist authorities. You can go and see the terracotta warriors. You can't really go to see the pyramids. Now, I would have tried, but
you can see them on Google Earth. They're actually covered. They're covered in dirt now and planted with trees.
Correct. When I asked the tour guide about it, she looked at me a little strangely and said, "Oh yeah, we're still excavating." I said, "Okay." I didn't want to ask any further.
Standard response. Otherwise, you'd end up underground somewhere, Mekki.
That's right. Now, these restrictions, of course, make it extremely difficult for Westerners, of which I am one, and which is true, to visit the pyramid and take photographs of it. Nevertheless, some people from the West have actually managed to find a way to view this impressive structure. It is unknown when exactly the Great Pyramid of China was raised. According to some Chinese archaeologists, the pyramid was built during the Xia dynasty from 2205 to 1767 BC, so some 4,000 to 5,000 years ago. Ancient records preserved in an old monastery near the Mongolian border describe the Xi'an pyramid. The structure was said to measure 1,000 feet in height, that's about 300 meters, which made it the highest pyramid in the world. The Great Pyramid of Egypt is 450 feet in height, less than half, guys, less than half.
Wow.
According to the monastic documents, the pyramid was already extremely old when the records were made. The pyramid was already old when it was made. Who were the mysterious Chinese pyramid builders? Were they members of an ancient Atlantean civilization? Or were they perhaps the giants of the past? Or maybe visitors? I don't know.
That's right. That's exactly right. Another one of my favorites, Mekki, coming up. Special case, Mohenjo-Daro.
Yes, sir. Off you go.
All right. There is one intriguing aspect to Mohenjo-Daro that sets it apart from most ancient ruins. It is one anomaly among several at the site that has caused some researchers to suggest that there might have been forces unleashed in the past that are comparable to modern weapons. Walls, pottery, and other items found in the city have been turned into a kind of ceramic glass, vitrified, indicating that they were exposed to heat close to 1500 degrees Celsius. Evidence of ionizing radiation has also been found in some of the burial sites. Archaeologist Francis Taylor stated that etchings in some nearby temples, he translated, suggested that they prayed to be spared from the great light that was coming to lay ruin to the city. Gee, it sounded like Sydney in the last week.
Right? I know.
It is so mind-boggling to imagine that some civilization had nuclear technology before we did, but we've already spoken about that. The radioactive ash adds credibility to the ancient Indian records that describes atomic warfare. Furthermore, when excavations of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro reached the street level, they discovered skeletons scattered about the cities, many holding hands and sprawling in the streets as if some instant horrible doom had killed its inhabitants. People just lying unburied in the streets of the city. There seemed no one available to bury them afterwards. Now, this is the same depiction of people as we've seen in Pompeii.
That's right.
Pompeii.
And I like you guys to remember the Rama Empire, right? So people believe that Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, well, ostensibly the Harappan culture, some people believe they may have been the Rama Empire cities that was allegedly at war with the Empire of Atlantis, which I think was called Avasia or Zavia in the Rama in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Now, what could cause such a thing? Why did the bodies not decay or get eaten by wild animals? Furthermore, there's no apparent cause of physically violent death. And even further, Alexander Gobovsky in Riddles of Ancient History, published in 1966, a Russian scientist, reported the discovery of at least one human skeleton in this area with a level of radioactivity approximately 50 times greater than it should have been due to natural radiation. Furthermore, thousands of fused lumps, christened black stones, have been found at Mohenjo-daro. These appear to be fragments of clay vessels that melt together in extreme heat. Another curious sign of an ancient nuclear war in India is a giant crater near Mumbai, formerly Bombay. The nearly circular 2,154 meter diameter Lorna crater, which is really quite round, located 400 kilometers northeast of Mumbai and dated at less than 50,000 years old, could be potentially, maybe, related to nuclear warfare in antiquity. No trace of any meteoric material or the like has been found at the site or in the vicinity. And this is the world's only known impact crater in basalt.
Wow.
Yeah. So indications of great shock from a pressure exceeding 600,000 atmospheres and intense abrupt heat, indicated by basalt glass spherules, can be ascertained from the site. Now, and this was taken from our esteemed and departed colleague Phil Coppens' site. May he rest in peace. He was a great researcher, but I thought we just mention him because this was part of his research. Now, all cultures have legends of a golden time where gods could walk with men, where flight was possible, immortality or extreme longevity were the norm. The big question is this, right? Why do we not learn about this in school? Why is it suppressed and even ridiculed? Because the thing is this, guys, just go ahead and ask anyone about any of these things or talk about it. Even your own reaction to some of this, I'm not saying it is, but it may be, is probably to smile and just, nod or shake your head or whatever. But ask yourself, whenever you have an automatic reaction like that, why is that? Because you were educated, you were conditioned to react that way.
It's all about conditioning. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Now, Dave, take me to the tinfoil hat zone.
Okay, just beware. This is a tinfoil hat zone, Mackie. Everyone should keep their arms within the vehicle. No flash photography. And what should they do with their personal reality inverters?
Suspend them, please.
Yes. All right. Now, what about the biggest potential ancient tech artifact? What about it? And what is it? The moon. Remember, it rang like a bell when NASA hit it, and hit it twice. It's exactly 400 times smaller than the sun, is exactly 400 times closer to the Earth than the sun. That's very important to remember. It looks artificial. It looks to be placed artificially. It's the largest moon, Mackie, in the solar system, comparative to its partner.
Yes.
Extraordinary. Megalithic yard connection. Mackie, book to read. Who built the moon? by Christopher and Alan Butler. You've got that one, haven't you?
I do have, but it's a fantastic book. There's since been done more research, but look, we did a show on the moon. In fact, several shows. Please go ahead and listen to those. The mystery or the mysteries surrounding the moon are legion. We just can't make heads or tail of it. It is completely inexplicable. Some of the things that are to do with the moon, we simply cannot explain. Now you think, how can that be? Well, that's a very good question. and how is it that you don't know about it? How is it that you don't know that the moon is older than the Earth? What? How is it that you do not know that its surface is extremely hot and can't be drilled into? What? And how is it that you don't know that it contains certain elements which don't occur in nature naturally?
Mm-hmm. Guess what? My thought when I look at the face on the moon, when I really look at it, I think what an extraordinary thing. And I'm not talking about pareidolia, where you make something out of something that it isn't. Yeah. I'm thinking, my thoughts are, as that at some point, someone with enough technology intentionally let off explosives on the moon's surface to be able to create a picture, just like you can with a paintball gun and shoot paint onto a wall. I believe that they did that and shaped the face on the moon so the egotistical ruler would always have people worshipping him, even in the afterlife. It sounds extraordinary, Mackie, but I'm going on a limb and saying that's what I believe.
Hey, you know what? If you've got the know-how and the wherewithal to do these things, and guys, we talk about different levels of civilization here. Right? I mean, we are pretty much at the beginning. Like, we're a level 1 civilization, maybe not even that. But the next level, we're talking about Dyson spheres. We're talking about a whole bunch of different things, maybe even galactic constructions. Now, there's a summary, though, and I do want to get through the summary. So the human race, have suffered amnesia. Each major ELE, which is an extinction level event in the past, has erased all knowledge, but for a few texts found from each, but have been mainly ignored up until recently. We simply ignore what we don't understand. In fact, we couldn't understand it because our level of sophistication and technology wasn't high enough to understand it. Proof exists that significant cultures existed before modern times and survived long enough to leave behind the evidence mentioned here tonight. Well, over the last 9 nights, actually. We wouldn't be talking about it if these cultures didn't have spoken and written language, governance, infrastructure, and lots of people, which requires laws, food, clean water supplies, irrigation, health controls, education, farming, and trade. And what did the Romans ever do for us? But mostly a technology that allowed them to build the intricate and precise megalithic structures found all over the world in each continent. Maybe even Antarctica, I would say yes. Mm-hmm. Which have stood the test of time, and under the oceans, of course. Ice ages, wars, and they are here today above and below the water of proof. With all of this overwhelming evidence, the history books need to change. It is clear to us that we need to admit to ourselves that it was either human, or someone else that built these things. Now, I really want you to consider this. And in science fiction, it's not such an unusual concept. But I'd like you to consider this. What if really we've been here for a very, very long time? Okay, and this is really one of the pillars of the hypothesis. And every time the extinction level event happens, we completely lose all our knowledge of what went before. It's funny enough, The Matrix supposes exactly that scenario. The movie The Matrix, I mean. Zion is destroyed every time. And only a few survivors are left with no knowledge of the previous Zion. No knowledge of the previous Zion. Now, do the creators of the Matrix have a leaning toward this ancient knowledge? Maybe not. Maybe it's just one of the artifacts that we carry within ourselves that needs to be expressed at some point, right? Like an archetype. I don't have the answer.
Like a message that we've encoded in our DNA. So at some point we are going to ask this question. What on earth is all this old stuff we keep lying around everywhere?
Yeah,
Mackie,
exactly.
The thing that I question, and if you have to question the same thing, ancient tech on the moon and Mars. If they were to be, if that was to come out, then it would change everything about us.
Yes. Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
It would be just as easy to say, I actually look, on Earth we found some ancient tech. There must have been civilization before us. And then it would be so easy to accept the moon and Mars, wouldn't it?
And there's the music. New
is.
show material next week.
Yes. Take care, everyone. Don't forget to donate. Listen to Funded Radio. If you like this on YouTube, don't forget to like it, smash the like button, and put some comments in. Take care, everyone. Till next week.